So happiness from within, what that means to me is it's a connection with the truth of who I am, a connection with my soul.
Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another beautiful episode of Happiness from Within. My name is Jeanette. I'm the host here of Happiness from Within. Our mission here is to help you come out of the darkness and into the light and to help you find that happiness from within. Today, we have a really incredible guest. Her name is Alana Joy. Alana is a reconnection coach, speaker, and lifelong healer. And she has been a healthy professional for over 20 years, working as a nurse and also as a psychotherapist. And she's here to share her incredible story of how she has come out of the darkness and into the light, sharing happiness from within and many other jewels. So I have her here in front of me. How are you today, Alana?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, Jeanette. It really is, such a special place to share our stories of transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to jump right in, what does happiness from within mean to you?
Yeah, I was sitting with this earlier, and what came into mind right away, I always know that's the truth, the one that gets there quickest. So happiness from within, what that means to me is it's a connection with the truth of who I am, a connection with my soul. And if I may share a little story with you.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so when I was born, way back when I was born, my grandmother was so excited. I have three older brothers, and my grandmother was just yearning for a granddaughter to put in a dress and to, do the girl. My grandmother was very much into the girly things and so excited that I was born. And when I was born around Christmas time, and Joy to the World was playing on the radio as I was born, and my grandmother said, "This is it. This is my Joy. This is," yeah. And so she was trying to convince my parents to name me Joy, but they had other ideas. And so they named me Alana, but she got the name in there. So my middle name is Joy. And over the years, and I'm sure we'll get into this more as we're talking together, over the years, going through some dark places and through some, tough times, I reconnected with the joy within me, and that is really the essence of my soul is joy. And I can feel the presence of my grandmother. Even when I say it now, I can feel her here, and she's just so excited. She's so excited that I'm now Alana Joy. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
So tell us, where are you from, Alana Joy?
Okay. So right now I guess I've been here for half my life now. So I'm from Vancouver. I guess I can say I'm from Vancouver, Canada, British Columbia. Yeah. Originally from Montreal, Canada. And, but yeah, spent half my life there and half my life here. So where am I from? I'm a soul of the universe. But
I love that. That's a perfect answer.
yeah.
That's wonderful. So I think it's really amazing how you used to be a nurse, is that correct?
Yeah.
What made you want to get into nursing? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I haven't reflected on that in this context before. So, I always loved, it was more than a love. I always was drawn to helping people, not just people, animals, you name it. I remember as a kid, I remember we lived on the edge of a forest, and there were always animal friends coming to our door, and often injured or needing some help. And I remember at a young age, picking up I didn't know it was dead, but picking up a bird that wasn't moving. And I was trying to bring it back to life. And I kissed it, thinking that would take its suffering away. And it didn't. And my mother washed my mouth out with I don't know what. But I just always felt drawn, like this calling to help other living beings, to ease their suffering. And so being a helping professional came very naturally and easy to me because of certain personalities and relationships in my family. I was often the caretaker of those in my family, the emotional caretaker. And so then when it came time to kind of decide what I was going to do as a career, nursing came quite naturally. My mother was also a nurse, and she was strongly advocating for being a wonderful profession. And so I said, okay, yeah, that seems quite in alignment with where I was at the time. Yeah, that so I became a nurse, and I was very young when I graduated. I was only 20, and I was a registered nurse.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I went through quite quickly. So
Wow.
yeah, so I was like, okay, I like this, and it really aligns with parts of my. I didn't even know my soul that well at that time, anyways, but I could feel the resonance. Yeah, with caring for others, alleviating suffering. There are aspects of the work that I really, really connected with. Um, but I was 20, and I was like, I don't know if this is from now until I retire or whatever. And I started getting messages from my body that this was not sustainable for me. And part of my story, and maybe I'll segue into it now or later, I don't know, but part of my story is having experiences in my body that were atypical. And so, so going back to the nursing story, as a nurse, I mean, really, shift work is hard on anybody, anybody. But I was really noticing, things were popping up, symptoms were popping up. I was like, my body was telling me this is not forever. I can't do this forever. I need to pivot
Yeah.
to a career where I can still support others, alleviate suffering, and but be a little bit gentler and more responsive to the needs of my body.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah,
interesting. I love how you're just talking about, I mean, even at such a young age, you just really started listening to yourself, you know.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting because like a lot of times, we can get signs, but then we ignore them.
I know that's
Uh,
part of your story too, right? Yeah, yeah.
um, so when you were deciding at the time, okay, whether to that this wasn't for me anymore, like when did that day happen and then what happened after that?
Mhm.
How long were you in nursing? Let's go there.
Well, I was technically I was a nurse for 16 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
A long time.
Long time. Yeah, a long time. Until I actually gave up my license. So, yeah, 16 years. And early on in my career, I was getting the signs that I needed to contemplate a shift, that this couldn't be forever for my body. And so, I was working in an acute care unit for people with, brain injuries. And a lot of the care was primarily physical, really trying to keep them alive. And I actually thrive in crisis, and I love that. I love being able to support their physical, yeah, survival. But what I really gravitated towards was more the emotional connection. And as a nurse, there wasn't as much space for that as I needed, and as much as I felt the patient needed, and I wanted to connect with them in that way. And so my interest in emotional mental health kind of evolved from there, and I went on to do my master's in counseling. And so I
Wow.
was bridging the two careers, pursuing my master's in counseling while still nursing. And then I graduated with my master's in counseling and still kind of kept the two practices going for a while. But I recognized again, it was, my body in the nursing profession, I couldn't sustain it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I focused on my work as a psychotherapist. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was a nurse for 16 years, but there was overlap, and now I've been a therapist for 16 years. So, so
Wow.
yeah.
That's
I don't know how that
incredible.
math adds up. I'm like, how old am I? I don't know how it adds up, but it does.
No, it's beautiful. Everybody has their own beautiful journey,
Yeah.
and story. So I know
Yeah.
you had mentioned to me that also you've had an experience of overcoming chronic illness.
Hmm.
Can you touch a little bit on that, what you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah. I'm comfortable sharing whatever will help others. Yeah. And I can relate to your parts of your story as well around this transformation and the awakening that can happen, often does happen with chronic illness. So as I mentioned, I was getting signs in my body working as a nurse that the career wasn't sustainable, but really I was getting signs in my body from birth that something was a bit different.
Wow.
And, as a young kid, I had different experiences than my friends. I had my tonsils out at 9 years old, pretty routine surgery.
Wow.
And a week later, I hemorrhaged and had a near death experience.
Wow.
At 12 years old, I had a fall off my bike, pretty minor fall, broke my wrist, cast on, cast off. But for weeks later, I was still limping, and I was told that everything was fine. Everything was fine. Yeah, it was going to get better. It was all in my head, was kind of the message I got. So I learned to disconnect from my experiences and to not believe the messages in my body.
Yeah.
But soon after that, I learned that I had a condition in my leg and I was at risk of never walking again. Um, and so thankfully I did, miraculously. I was able to regain function in my leg. It took a long time. But so I was getting whispers in my body. Oh, not really whispers, those were pretty loud signs. I was getting signs in my body that things were different for my body. And I was experiencing, and I wouldn't have identified it as this at the time, but I recognize now I had chronic pain. And I mean, this is the only body I've ever lived in this life, you know? So I didn't know what it felt like to be in any other body. And so, but my body was uncomfortable, yeah? And I just thought, this is what it feels to be human, and this is what it is, right? And so fast forward, so lots of weird and wonderful things happened in my body throughout my life. And it wasn't until the birth of my son, and I started to see some things in him. I'm like, what's that about? And what's this about? And what, he's really floppy and he's kind of late to crawl and he's got a hernia and he's just all these, you know?
Mm.
And I was seeing these things in him and I was like, well, wait a minute. I was seeing a lot of the same things in him that I had experienced as well. So then I put on my nursing hat and got really curious. I'm like, what is going on here for us? Yeah. And long story short, I was seen by medical genetics, and I was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a genetic disorder of the connective tissues. And so the connective tissues are everywhere in our bodies, not just in joints and skin, but internal organs, blood vessels, GI tract, like gut, everywhere. Yeah. And so it's a major building block for our whole body. And so at the DNA level, my collagen map is wrong, it's faulty. So that explained a lot of the experiences I had as a kid, and that explained the widespread pain because the body needs to work extra hard to hold itself together because the glue in the body isn't doing it effectively. So I was diagnosed, my son was diagnosed, and it was vindicating in a lot of ways. Like, it's not all in my head. I haven't been making this up. I'm not malingering, yeah. But it was also, yeah, so there was relief, but there was also a ton of grief. What does this mean for my life? What does this mean for my son's life? You know? So I was really confronted with my mortality at that time.
So what ended up happening? Like, did you start looking for alternative methods to heal this, or what?
Yes, yes, I did. Because, Western medicine, and I say this both as a, provider in medicine and also a receiver of medicine, Western medicine has its limitations. And especially when the conditions are rare and poorly understood. Western medicine, thank goodness, it has its place. There is a need for it, and it absolutely has its limitations. And so I was confronted with that on a personal level when it came to my diagnosis and my son's diagnosis. And so there's no cure for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's purely management of each symptom, and there are a variety of symptoms and co-occurring conditions as a result of it. And so, I mean, yeah, I had to look outside the box, outside the Western medical box. And, around that time, I was seeking healing, but not just the physical healing of my body, but the emotional, my emotional body, my spiritual body, this diagnosis. And it was around the same time that my dad died, all within a few years. I was diagnosed, my son was diagnosed, and my dad died. And when he died, he shared a message with me in the days leading to his death. And he said, life is for living. And I was just like, I was struck. Such simple words, but it sent me down this spiral. Like, how am I not living? Am I living? how am I not living? I didn't even know if I wanted to live, to be honest. There were times that I thought about taking my life because I had experienced such profound disconnection throughout my whole life, emotionally, literally, physically disconnected, and spiritually. And so I didn't know how to live. And so I had to go on a rescue mission to uncover who I actually was and to reconnect with joy, the essence of my soul, to be able to survive. So I don't really know what your question was going into that, but that's my path into my awakening. It was survival. I had to wake up to the truth of who I was, or I wasn't going to live out this human life. Yeah.
No, I'm just getting goosebumps with what your dad said.
Yeah.
That's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Life is about living. Wow. That's really
Yeah.
profound. So take us through this. So what happened? Did you so you and your son have this condition, you know, your dad passes away. And then what happens after that?
Well, so I went down this spiral of spiritual breakdown. um, and I felt like I was starting from scratch in a lot of ways, like rebuilding what was in rebuilding? Well, I guess it was a rebuilding. You know, I think so many of us, and I know this is true for me, and I think true for many, we build up our lives in a way that we think we're supposed to live. Yeah. The conditioning, the patterning, right? Society tells us we should do this or be that or be whatever, right?
Right.
Right? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So being in this collapsed place, you know, I was re-examining my whole life. I didn't even know with this condition, what's my prognosis? You know, there's not a clear prognosis. And there's a wide spectrum of disability for people with this condition. And I didn't know where I was going to land. I didn't know where my son was going to land. Yeah. So, I mean, my future was uncertain. And of course, that's the reality of our human existence. Our future is uncertain, right? Every moment it's uncertain. We don't know. But the veil of that certainty was lifted. It's like we kind of go through life thinking, oh, I'm going to do this when I'm older. This is what's going to happen in a year or 2 years, right? But that's not the reality of our existence. And so I was confronted with that, you know, coupled with my father's death, I was confronted with the reality of our existence that we just don't know. We just don't know anything really. And so uh, all that, you know, false self crumbled. And then there's the rubble. And I had to take off rock by rock and sort through what is actually me. And some of it I still identified with, but other parts I didn't. And so I did this deep emotional, physical, spiritual dive through lots of different, like you name it, I tried it. Lots of different practices. I would call them woo-woo because I was a very science, logic, brain person going into this awakening. I had no connection with a God or universe or soul or any, that language was totally foreign to me. I wasn't raised with anything like that. So I connected with a greater power. I connected with my guides. I started getting downloads and meditations. So it's just like just this real soul opening experience of who I really am as a soul and what needed to fall away. And so in that time, I uncoupled from my husband of 15 years. With 2 kids. Yeah, we did it beautifully. We did it consciously and intentionally, and we're very good friends. And it was gut wrenching, soul wrenching. I knew we needed to do that at that time. I moved. I more significantly pivoted my career to come into greater alignment. I mean, you named it. I did it. I did it. I just peeled everything away that wasn't me, that I thought I was supposed to be, and found my authentic self. And that's who I am now. That's who I am now. I'm now Alana Joy, and I'm more connected with my soul than I ever have been. And this is probably not the end of the road. I'm sure there's still lots more for me to wake up to. It's a never-ending journey, but I'm more myself than I ever have been. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. You've been through a lot. That's wow.
Yeah.
So through this journey, like, did your symptoms get better, or like what exactly happened?
You know, they got worse actually. They got worse. Yeah. And I get it. I get it now, right? Because I had been spending most of my life numbing to it because I had been basically told I wasn't what I thought I was feeling, I wasn't feeling. Yeah. So I was gaslighted by healthcare professionals. I was gaslighting myself, not believing what I was experiencing. So um, I just disconnected. I lived the first half of my, more than that, more than that. The first, like, well, almost 4 decades of my life got off from my body because I was experiencing all these sensations that were uncomfortable. I didn't understand them, and I was told they weren't true. I was also experiencing, a connection with soul, a connection with universe, the divine, that in my environment, family and social environment, I was told was crazy, woo woo, not true. Yeah. So I had to live in my head to be able to get by in my family and my, environment, my society. Woo woo, too woo woo. Don't talk about that stuff. Yeah. So I cut it all off. And so, the cutting off, I knew at some level that I was cutting off and it was really uncomfortable. And to manage that discomfort, I drank, you know, yeah, I think like so many of us, right? When we're really uncomfortable with what's going on in here, we don't know how to be with it. We don't know what it is. We don't know what to call it. We don't know how to be with it. So we disconnect from it. We numb from it. And there's so many different ways that we see this in society, how people are cutting off. And alcohol is just one. And it's almost societally endorsed to drink, which is like kind of alarming to me. But anyways, I would never have diagnosed myself as an alcoholic, but I knew when I was picking up a glass of wine, I knew what I was trying to do. I was trying to disconnect from the discomfort, physical, emotional, spiritual discomfort that I was feeling. And so when I woke up, when I woke up, illness, dad's death, I was just like, I've got to cut all this stuff out and start to actually feel. And so, to answer your question, the symptoms got worse. Yeah. I mean, there were times when my kids were younger, they're still pretty young, preteen and teen. There were times when they were younger that I could barely get out of bed. I could barely get out of bed. I had very little energy. I was having racing heart, irregular heartbeat. I was dizzy. I was pain everywhere. And I was chasing, and through the Western medical system, I was trying to understand what was happening. And this med was given to me, and that med was given to me, and that it gave me side effects, and it didn't quite touch all that was going on for me. And I've come to learn that it wasn't only a physical disconnection that I was experiencing. It wasn't just the disconnection in my connective tissue. It was also an emotional and spiritual disconnection. And so when I started to become more connected emotionally and spiritually, the physical symptoms started to abate.
And how is your health? How is your health now? Your kids, your son?
I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm very mindful of it, as I believe all humans. There's value for all humans in being mindful of this temple that we have and being conscious and aware of what we put into it in all forms. Food, of course, yeah. Liquids, content, imagery, sensations, all these things. So I'm very mindful and intentional of what I absorb into this vessel. And so my health is actually, it's good. It's good. And I need to stay vigilant and conscious of what I'm allowing this body to absorb. Yeah.
That's incredible. I really love that. That's really incredible. So tell us a little bit more about what you do right now.
Yeah. So what I do right now, I'm in this identity shift professionally. Yeah. So I was a registered nurse, tons of experience, knowledge, wisdom gained about the body, and then a psychotherapist, tons of knowledge, wisdom gained about our emotional experience. And now, having had the spiritual awakening myself, I'm weaving this into how I show up in the world professionally. And in this awakening process, I received multiple messages, and there's a part of me that still says this is woo-woo, but it for real, it happened. I got these messages in meditation that my purpose here is to guide others on a similar journey and to bridge the science to the spirituality. Because that was my experience. And I believe that, we're all here. Yeah. I mean, I won't impose my beliefs on others, but for me, anyways, I'm here as a soul. This is not my first time round, and I've lived many lives. And my purpose is to ease others on that journey if they're ready to wake up in this lifetime. And often the door to that awakening, it can be through illness, like we've talked about, and I know this is part of your journey as well. It can be divorce or separation, which is also part of my experience. It can be death of a loved one. It can be a job loss. There's so many life experiences that can open us to this place of who am I, and how am I gonna live the rest of my life? Yeah, who am I now? Yeah. So now what I do now, I'm still working as a psychotherapist, so that's still part of my practice. And I'm also a coach, a reconnection coach, supporting others to reconnect with the essence of who they are. And to do that, it's reconnecting with their emotions, reconnecting with their sensations, with their body, and reconnecting with their authentic self. And so this is the process that I guide my clients through, individually and in groups, to go through this process of taking off all that's not them and reconnecting with what is them, to live a more purposeful and joyful life, because I know it's possible. I did it. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I love that. That's really great. So you offer one-on-one, you do group sessions, or how?
Yeah. I do work one-on-one. So again, I have my counseling practice. So that's kind of psychotherapy. I also take on coaching clients if there's that alignment, if they're at that point in their lives where they're opening, spiritually, that they're in that dark place, and having that spiritual awakening. So I work with people individually in that place, and I'm also just on the brink of launching an online program to touch on exactly this. The online program is called Beneath the Surface: Excavating Your Authentic Self. And it walks people through that process, those 3 steps of connecting with your emotions, connecting with your sensations, with your body, and connecting with your soul. So I'm just on the brink of releasing it. Hopefully within the next month, I'll have it out.
No, that's wonderful. Congratulations. And those that are watching, listening, so Alana Joy actually has a free gift for you guys that we'll have below, so you guys can get that. So just to close, I'd love to ask you, how do you want to be remembered when you take your last breath?
Such a beautiful question. I love this. Thank you. This question is such a gift, and I hope your listeners will also ask themselves this question. Because, often when we reflect on this question, we can get into greater alignment of how we want to live out the rest of our life on this planet, in this incarnation. And so for me, how I want to be remembered is that I was living the essence of my soul, which is joy and compassion, and that that in my presence, others felt soothed and healed. Yeah,
I love that. That's beautiful. My last question for you is, what does Alana Joy mean to you?
I love this. I haven't thought of this. So, well, joy is my soul essence. So when I say that and I hear that sound, I'm reminded of my soul, reconnects me with my soul and with my guides, with my grandmother. And Alana, the name Alana, I've heard it said before. I think it was Wayne Dyer actually that said this, that in many cultures and in many societies, the word God often has an awe sound to it. God, Allah. I'm not especially a religious person, so I can't cite them off. I can't rattle them all
It's
off.
okay. There's no
But
right
I'm
or
very
wrong answer.
connected with the divine.
It's just a question that flowed through me. That was all.
Yeah, I know. I
No
love
right
it.
or
And
wrong
so
answer.
where I'm going with that is my name, Alana, connects me with the divine, connects me with source. Yeah. So Alana connects me with source, and joy connects me with me, with soul.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. I really want to thank you for being a guest here on Happiness from Within. I really enjoyed today's interview, and definitely can do it again in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Jeanette. It's so
All
lovely
right.
to be here.
Welcome. Have a
Yeah.
wonderful day.
Yeah. Thanks. You too. Okay. Bye.